A lot of people tell me that having a more American accent is just a nice to have. However, if you're actively making content or ads targeting the American market, or you actually live in the United States, I couldn't disagree more. And this isn't just me saying this, by the way.
Learned that the hard way. I did 4 in a row Cash Cats episodes that bombed because English wasn't their first language. And then I was like, and we were looking at all these details. I was like, dude, no one can understand them. That's it. That's all it was. When we had all the people who could speak English, they all crushed.
Look, some of you are going to be triggered by this, and that's fine. This video is for people who are serious about winning in the American market. And if you are triggered by this, then I actually find it kind of funny because you are the person that is trying to actively enter a market with a product or service, but the way you are communicating is completely different than what that target audience is used to. And it seems like you are expecting them to adapt to you as opposed to you adapting to the market. Because honestly, you would have the same problem advertising in, let's say, France if you had a thick foreign accent in French.
What? No.
Now, I know you might be asking yourself, why the hell should I even listen to this Dylan guy? Like, what does he know about my accent? Well, I'm a foreigner just like yourself. I used to have a very strong foreign accent until I changed it successfully using Hollywood accent techniques, and I have to say, it completely changed my life. And now I help high-level online business owners just like yourself to do the same. Now, if you know anything about marketing, then you know that this is just basic biology and psychology. Yes, you need a great product, obviously, that's the number one, but people trust what's the most familiar to them. It makes it easier to understand in terms of literal pattern recognition, and it makes it easier to emotionally connect to. And here is literal proof of this working. When a brand hires UGC creators, what do? They match the creator's appearance, behavior, and sound to the target market. Why? Because people buy more when they see and hear someone just like themselves. So really, this isn't really controversial, it's just marketing. Now on the flip side, we are literally biologically wired to distrust unfamiliar patterns. People will literally dismiss your intelligence, your integrity, your credibility, just because you sound different. And that is called unconscious bias. So imagine you're a nuclear physicist in America, but you have a thick accent. Your first impression on an American is going to be a lot weaker than that of a native-speaking counterpart. Not because you're less credible, but just because of unconscious bias and that pattern mismatch. And on top of that, that also happens because they actively have to work a little harder to understand you. My acting teacher used to call this making their asses hurt, because if you imagine being in a play and you have to constantly lean forward and go, what did he say? Oh, I guess he said, okay. That means they have to actively work harder to understand you, and they are going to have a harder time emotionally connecting to you. And during that time, their ass is literally going to hurt because they're going to shift around, be bored. They're going to take out their phones. They're going to talk to each other. They might go to the bathroom and just never come back at all. And obviously, this same thing applies to your content and ads as well, because a confused mind says no. Because of unconscious bias and that extra mental work required, Americans are much more likely to click away from your content, which of course means fewer people overall are going to watch your content, fewer people are going to reach your CTA, which obviously means you're going to make less money, and then if you do want to still reach your income goal, you're going to have to compensate and pump out way more content, which is a symptomatic fix, but not a systemic fix. So since we're all business owners here, I think it'll be very beneficial to actually put some numbers on this to make it a bit more specific. So just to keep things simple, we're going to assume you're going to sell a high ticket offer for $8,000. And then on average, your videos are going to get 1,000 views. And then we're going to have some industry averages and percentages for, in this case, right, the hook rate would be the first thing. So we're going to assume you have a 60% hook rate, which means out of those 1,000 people that actually checked it out, kind of clicked on it, or maybe scrolled into it, 60%, in this case meaning, right, 600 people are going to actually go, all right, I'll give this a chance. Then 25% are going to play through the whole thing and reach your CTA. That means 25% of the people that got hooked. So overall, that's going to be 150 people that reach your CTA. And then assuming, again, kind of healthy amounts here, that 10% are going to take action on that and they're going to book a call. So 10% out of 150 is going to be 15 calls booked. And then out of that, assuming a healthy close rate with a good high-priced offer, meaning if your close rate is way higher, maybe you just have to raise prices, right? But In this case, we're going to assume a 30% close rate, meaning that out of 15 calls, you're going to close 5 people, which means for your high ticket offer, you are going to make 5 times 8K, meaning $40,000 in revenue. Now, what about when your accent actually affects those numbers? And we're going to assume conservatively affects those numbers, right? So your hook rate might drop by 10%. So you're at 50%, meaning out of the 1,000, 500 people now instead of 600 are going to give your video a chance. The playthrough rate might drop, right, by maybe, let's say, again, conservatively, 5%. So instead of getting 25% to play the whole thing and get to your CTA, it's going to be 20%. So it goes down from 150 people to 100 people. Now, if we're assuming maybe the action taking on the CTA does not get affected, still 10% of people are going to book a call, right? You still get 10%. That's going to mean instead of 15 calls, you're going to have 10 calls. Now, if your close rate also gets affected, because overall, if you're trying to charge US prices, that is harder to do as a foreigner, especially if you're in a very cheap market. So a close rate might drop by 5% to 25%. That means instead of closing 5 people and making a revenue of $40,000, based on the math here, you would close 2.5 clients. So that could be 2, maybe 3, would be inconsistent. So we can assume, if you were to average it out, that you would about lose half of your revenue that you could have potentially made, which means you will have to compensate by making way, way, way more content in order to make up for the extra sales that you could have been making. Now, in terms of priorities, you can think about it like a leaky bucket with holes in it. You can either pour in way, way, way more water and work way harder, or you could just patch the holes. In terms of which one you should choose, I mean, both options obviously address the issue, but one of them, again, is symptomatic. The other one is a systemic fix. So my verdict or recommendation would be, if you have a lot of time, I would do both. If you have to pick one, I would prioritize the systemic fix and I would work on your accent. The one exception that I can maybe think of would be if you have a weak product, bad positioning, or just no marketing fundamentals in place at all. Might want to fix that first. But again, accent, in this case, if you have a strong foreign accent and you want to win in the American market, very, very high leverage, just like Hormozi was saying.
What should they focus on first to help them get US clients?
Speaking English without an accent, by far the number one.
So assuming we're on the same page here about the accent being the higher leverage thing to do, you have basically 2 choices. You can either work on this on your own through self-study or video courses or just YouTube, which is easily the slowest way of doing this. So if you have a lot of time to get to that desired end goal, go ahead and do that. But if you actually want to make a change much, much faster, I would definitely recommend working with, outside help with a coach, because that's definitely, like for me, when I changed my own accent, it would have taken me significantly longer to make a change in my accent if I hadn't had the help of my coaches at acting school. If you want to do that with me, there are going to be 2 links in the description below. One of them takes you to the free community where you can check out more free content and connect with me. But ultimately, if you want to make a real change to your accent much faster, I would recommend going to the other link where you can apply to work with me. So again, both links are down in the description below, and that would be it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, okay.